Hey friends, welcome to my little corner on the interwebs. If you're new here, my name's Kathlena and I'm autistic with a heavy dash of ADHD. Some of you might have seen in my community post that I am pregnant, and that's what this video is going to be about. I wanted to keep it a little bit more casual. I don't want to do a ton of edits on it, and so that's what we're going to do. I'm tired and I just want to share this with you and I don't want to put a ton of work into it. So I'm hanging out in one of my most favorite places to be, which is our 1965 Oasis trailer. I'll give you a quick little tour. It's so cute. We got this giant window here, and yeah, I like being here. So at the time of filming this, I am 14 and a half weeks, working my way towards 15 weeks pregnant. And I just want to go over my symptoms, both physically and emotionally, from the point of view of now knowing that I'm autistic and just kind of how this experience has impacted me within my autistic self. I do want to say that this is my second pregnancy. My first pregnancy, I did not know that I was autistic, and it was also a very different experience so far than this pregnancy. And so I will kind of, compare both experiences, but just keep in mind that with my first pregnancy, I didn't know yet at the time that I was autistic. And again, I mean, it was just a very different experience. So let's start at the beginning, because that's a very good place to begin. I found out that I was pregnant really early on, just a few days after missing my period. I have a really regular, 27, 28 day cycle, and I finally took a pregnancy test around day 30 or 31, and it immediately came up as positive. This pregnancy was a surprise. It's welcomed, we're excited about it, but it was a surprise. And I should say that this is also the same way that our son decided to come into the world. He was also a lovely surprise baby. So those two are very similar in the ways that we found out and the way that we got pregnant, basically. The first experience, however, was quite different emotionally than this one. So I do just want to let you guys know that this is kind of vulnerable to talk about. Motherhood in general is just one of those areas that is easily shamed, unfortunately, and so it's kind of hard to share certain things that you might feel or that you're experiencing, because it's probably or could be different from other people's experiences, and it really seems to open up the door for judgment, and that's not really what I'm here for. I just want to share my personal experience and be raw and vulnerable. So I tested positive, and my very first symptom started to happen actually before I even tested positive, and that was acid reflux. And that was such a weird thing to start experiencing so early, and it's been consistent. I have a feeling I'm probably just gonna have acid reflux the rest of the pregnancy. I got it with my first pregnancy, but it wasn't until I was in my third trimester when everything was being pushed up. And so I just felt like that was such a weird thing to experience so early on. That was my first symptom. And then I also felt the implantation. So I had mild implantation cramping and kind of stretching. And I had that with my first as well. Starting right before week 6, the nausea and vomiting kicks in. I had nausea with mild, occasional vomiting with my first pregnancy, but it was what I even in the moment described as it's kind of mild, where I would experience it in the morning, and usually around noon, after I had had a couple of meals in me, I was good to go for the rest of the day. And that was not my experience this time around. The nausea, no matter what I did, was constant all day long, and it was really really difficult and just debilitating. It was debilitating. And then I of course had really extreme fatigue, very tired. That was, you know, that's expected. I didn't expect the nausea to be as severe as it was. And so I consulted with my midwife, and she had recommended that I take a little concoction of vitamin B6 and this over-the-counter medicine called Unisom, which is actually a sleep medication, but it's the same active ingredient as what's in Benadryl, minus the antihistamine. I should say that if you are experiencing any of these symptoms or you are wanting to help with nausea, consult with your doctor or your midwife before you take anything that I have said that I'm taking, because every body is different and what works for me might not necessarily work for you. So it's definitely talk to your midwife. So around week 8, I started taking this little concoction and it was working beautifully. I did notice that the days or the nights when I forgot to take it, that the day following would be so difficult, and would often also result in a migraine. And I don't usually get headaches, so the migraines have been really difficult. I got one migraine in my first pregnancy, and it was debilitating. It was horrible. I had never had a migraine before, and really like allowed me to have more sympathy for those that experience them, because they're awful. And with this pregnancy, this time around, I've so far had 2 what I would consider true migraines that have lasted for like 48 hours. The 24 hours of just like being laid out, only being able to lay in bed with cold compresses on my head, and then 1 day recovering with still like mild headache. And that's been really difficult. So that happened. I entered week 14, so I'm in my 2nd trimester. I was feeling really good, you know, no symptoms of nausea, nothing like that. And so I was like, maybe I should be able to like start to get off of this medication. I'm in my 2nd trimester. That's when morning sickness is supposed to, you know, kind of wean down. And I stopped taking it this last week for 2 days, and that was a mistake. I was so sick. I got the worst migraine of my entire life, which is why this video is a couple of days later than I was hoping, because I really wanted to film this like 3 days ago. Did not happen. I was really sick, and I definitely vomited on myself in the car while I was driving. That was super fun, but you know, pregnancy story for the books. So needless to say, I don't think my body's quite ready to be off of that. So I think I'll probably try that again around week 16, and hopefully that will work. So another difference that I've had this pregnancy versus my first pregnancy is food aversions and just general lack of appetite, which you would expect with extreme morning sickness. The food, I just didn't, you know, even though I had like mild morning sickness with my son, I had a crazy appetite. I was eating so much. I really didn't have very many food aversions, and that was what I thought was helping my morning sickness, was just like getting food in. And maybe it was, I don't know, that's not the case this time around, because no matter what I was eating, nothing helped. And I feel significantly like more turned off by so many foods that I have always loved. I'm having a hard time with meat, and I love meat. I'm having a hard time with just heavier foods. It seems to be that I'm like drawn towards lighter, fresher foods now. A lot more fruits. That's a really weird one, because I've just never been a fruit eater, but I'm enjoying it. I'm embracing, you know, bringing some of these things into my diet. And I tell a lot of my clients that are in their first trimester and they're having guilt around not being able to eat a lot of these fresh foods, or, you know, because I will say that up until about week probably 10 or 11, pretty much all I was able to stomach was like cereal and carbs, like just very bland things. And as a nutritionist, you'd probably expect that I would be eating like all of these beautiful fresh salads and blah, blah, blah. And no, baby's gonna get everything that it needs, regardless really of what you're taking in, even if that means, unfortunately, pulling it from your own personal reserves. So if you're anxious about that, you're gonna be fine. You can make up for it when, you know, you get a little bit further into the pregnancy, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I do feel a lot more drawn to eating fresher, healthier foods, and so I'm embracing that now. So the last thing that I want to kind of go over in terms of just physical symptoms, but also this is a nice segue into the emotional aspect as well, is that I've had a lot more mood swings this pregnancy. I remember in my first pregnancy laughing with my husband and joking with him about, like, thank God I'm not, like, you know, when you hear about pregnant women, you always hear about these like mood swings and like mood fluctuations and all of that. And I've always been a pretty like stable, like in control of my emotions. That's really important. Control. Go figure. Control is an important thing for me. And so to not feel like I'm in control of my emotions has been really difficult, because I've had significantly more mood swings this pregnancy than I ever had in my first one. And that's been a challenging thing to deal with. I did also, because this baby was a surprise, I was on medication for my mental health that is not compatible during pregnancy, and I had to wean off of that, and so that also had an impact on my mental health, and definitely led to, or at least contributed to some depression early on. And so that's been a challenging thing to work through and to manage. And for anybody that is experiencing that, the best thing that I can say, because I can feel it like as it's happening, and to not be able to stop it has been really challenging. Like it's gonna happen. And the best thing that has helped with that is to, as soon as I'm able to calm myself, to go to whomever was in the crossfire and give a sincere apology. And unfortunately that's landed mostly on my husband, but he's been really, really great and supportive and understanding, and so I appreciate that. That is a good segue into a little bit more of just the emotional aspect that this pregnancy has brought for me. With my first pregnancy, that baby was also a surprise. I love that my babies just want to come when they want to come. But it was different with him, because even though it was earlier than we were planning on having children, we were planning on having children. And so we were like, cool, it's just happening a little bit earlier than we expected. And it was easier to kind of hop on board with that one and accept the change as it was coming. This one is a little bit different, because last summer, I had just discovered that I was on the spectrum, and this was a huge, you know, shift for me. And, you know, discussing it with my husband, and we did always want to have a second child. I always wanted to have a second child. But as my son was getting older and like that gap was kind of getting bigger, because he's going to be 6 this year. And then, you know, my husband and I at the time weren't in the best place to be bringing another child into the world. And what I mean is we weren't like, as a couple, we needed to do some work. And so we both just kind of put that to rest, you know, having another baby. We were like, we're good being a family of 3. Like, let's work on us. Let's focus on us. Let's focus on our son. We do have this happy, healthy child. Let's be a family of 3. And I completely shut that door in my brain of ever being pregnant again and ever having another child. And I was okay with it. I put it to rest. We got rid of all of the baby stuff. And my husband and I did end up, we were working with a counselor and still are. And, you know, really started to get into this great place together. And then boom, we're pregnant. And I can laugh about this. I invite you to laugh about this. My husband had a vasectomy scheduled 2 weeks after we found out that we were pregnant. And it's hilarious. It's funny the way that the universe works. But with all of that, because I had shut that door in my brain, it was really hard for me to get back on board and to get in a good, positive mind space about bringing another child in. And this is the vulnerable part for me to talk about. I don't think a lot of people share that, but it's the truth. And being autistic, I struggle with change. I struggle with things that are new and unexpected, and this was no exception. I will say that I am now in a much better place with it. Can't go back, but I wouldn't want to. I'm really, really excited to welcome this little being into the world and, expand our family. And I do also believe that everything happens for a reason. I do believe that this child chose us, because all of the circumstances surrounding the whole thing were just, this baby wants to be here. And I'm really excited to walk with this child through their life, and to see my son be oh my God, I'm gonna get emotional, to see my son be a big brother, because that was really, I really wanted to give him a sibling, because that's just a relationship that I love my siblings so much. That's a relationship that you can't get anywhere else. And he's so stinking excited, so excited about it. And so it's hard for me to admit that it was really hard to get into the mind frame of being excited to be a mom again. But it's the truth. So yeah, that was the part that I, have been a little bit anxious about sharing. I want to be honest. I want to be raw. I want to be vulnerable, because that's my experience. And if I left that out, then I would be leaving out a really big chunk of my first trimester. So with that, moving into my second trimester, and I'm really excited to experience birth again. We're in a place where I can do it the way that I really want to. I had kind of a traumatic birth with my son, and this time around, I really can, we're in a financial place where we can do it differently, and I'm super, super excited about that. So I can talk about that more in a different video. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments. I would love to give, some further updates as I progress, maybe a second trimester update and a third trimester update. Who knows? My husband loves filming, and he's into all of his gadgets. I'm sure that we will film our experience of labor and delivery. Maybe I'll put that up on this channel. We'll see. But yeah, the biggest things that I've been struggling with, the sensory overload, because it is a lot growing a baby. There is a lot going on within the body. It's really hard to get out of my body. And that's a struggle just normally, but definitely being pregnant has increased that. And yeah, but other than that, here we are. We're having a kid, and we're really excited about it. So anyways, that's it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to getting back onto a regular upload schedule now that I have more energy. So yeah, I've got some good videos in mind, but if there's anything specific that you all would like to see, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.